How does growth start? On today's episode of what you guys are about to watch is a conversation between myself and Michael Siervo. Now, Michael Siervo isn't someone that I've known for that long, but even in the short time that I've got to know him, I would consider him to be somewhat of a mentor to me, to be honest. He's been very generous and kind and honestly wise. He's given me so much great advice, and I feel blessed to have honestly had the chance to meet him. He's been coming into the studio to film podcasts with some really amazing people as well, who I've also learned from. Just to give a little bit of a background about Michael Siervo, he was the former director of wealth management at ManuLife Financial Global Investments. He was a former CEO and co-founder of VOSIER Enterprises, and honestly, he's achieved a lot of success over the course of his life. I recommend that you actually go and check out his Instagram and his LinkedIn page. His name is Michael Siervo. I really hope that you guys come to learn something from watching this episode between myself and Michael. So without further ado, please enjoy this episode.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're here with the impromptu interview of Think Nine Figures with our creative producer in the house, typically usually behind the camera, making sure that we look good. But today he's in front of a camera. Also a host of your own TV or your own podcast, Victor's Life. One and only Victor Ojo. Victor Ojo.
Thank you for having me on, man.
So Victor, tell me something. Where's the name Ojo come from?
My dad.
Yeah, obviously, right? Okay.
It's a very common name as far as I know, in Nigeria. It's a Yoruba name. I don't really know what it means, but I've heard that it has a similar. It has another word. It's got its own word in like Spanish, I think.
Okay.
But I think, is it called Ojo in Spanish as well?
I don't know.
I heard
what does
it
it stand for in your culture?
In my language, I have no idea. But in Spanish, I heard it means eye.
Eye.
Yeah.
As in like eyeball.
Eyeball, yeah. Ojo, I think is what it was called. I could be very wrong, but that's what I heard.
Oh, so eye. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so you're born and raised in.
I was born in Nigeria, but I was only there for about 9 years, and then I came to Calgary when I was 9, and I've been there since.
So
basically grew up here.
Most of your life, you still feel that you have this Nigerian, love of culture that you want to preserve, because I mean the rest of your life is likely going to be in North America, right?
I would say I am very going in and out. I would say I am very very open-minded. I wouldn't say I have a very, very strong connection to my culture. I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's just there. It's another culture to me. And anybody who's from Nigeria who's talking to me will probably say I'm basically like a white person.
You're pretty well. Yeah, you're Canadianized.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right. But is that a good thing or a bad thing? Like when your community looks at you, they say sellout. Look at the sellout.
No, they're always like, you're different. You're a foreigner to us, essentially. They don't look down on me for it.
That's good.
It's just that I have different ideologies from them, and that's what it is.
Like you lived for the first 9 years of your life in Nigeria, and how often do you go back?
I've never been back.
You've never been back?
Yeah.
Do you have any memories up until age 9?
I have some memories of school. I have some memories in school. I went to a private school in Nigeria. I have some memories where I was playing on some swings, where I played the keyboard or piano for my school. I have some memories of some people that I grew up with. And then I have some memories with my mom back home.
So is there any particular reason why you guys never decided to travel back to Nigeria?
My parents have been, I haven't been.
There's no like pilgrimage, you're like, I'm missing this culture, I gotta get back in there.
I feel
something's missing.
It's hard to say. In my opinion, we get enough culture here, and I am not against going back at all. Especially the older I get, actually, the more I want to go back. But I don't know. To me, it's a huge financial cost right now.
Right.
So that's the reason why I haven't gone back.
So I mean, you talk about financial cost, which is oftentimes the hindrance where people are, they won't do certain things because it costs a lot of money. If money wasn't an object, what would you be doing?
Like in life?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a question I've asked myself. I might be giving a generic answer, but I would want to help people,
Okay.
right? But to be fair, you don't need a lot of money to do that.
Yeah.
I would want to help people. I'm a Christian, right?
Mhm.
And I believe a lot of my principles come from the Bible. So I would want to do whatever I think is furthering God's work, furthering Jesus' work, because that's, I think, the best thing that we can spend our life doing, essentially. So I would want to do more of that if money was an option.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with making money. There's something wrong with making a lot of money and not doing anything meaningful with it. Because
Yes.
you can't take money back to heaven. There's this story where there's this super wealthy guy, and he's dying, and he decides to take all these gold bars. You know the story. He decides to take these gold bars, and he's packing his essentially his coffin. They said, well, you can take whatever's in your coffin is what you can take to heaven when you pass away. So he starts packing gold bars. Passes away. He's at the gates of heaven. St. Peter is there and says, all right, hey, welcome to heaven. What do you got with you? And he starts unpacking these gold bars, these gold bricks. And goes, why do you have blocks that we make the roads out of? Something along those lines.
Okay, that makes sense.
Like, you know what I mean? Because they say that heaven is paved with gold.
Gold, yeah.
He's like, why are you bringing a road with you? Essentially.
Yeah, so you brought trash, basically.
Yeah. And it just tells you that the society or the realm in which we live in, we tend to put so much value on material things.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know, like in my generation, we were all about money. That's what we grew up on. I think your generation is more about influence, views, likes, validation.
That would be a good way to put it. When I see your generation, I see people who came from a different part of the world, not the Western, and they came here and they had to grind for their family. It was grind or not survive, essentially.
Right.
My generation, I think, we've come up with a lot of privilege, even though some of us don't recognize it. And we have the privilege of being able to think about things like happiness, what makes us happy, what makes us feel good. So when you say my generation looks a lot at influence, I think it's a testament to the peace that we've endured.
It's interesting.
Peace that we've had over the years. So honestly, it's a good thing when I look at it that way.
Yeah, there's been a time where there's no wars, especially in North America.
Yeah.
We've had relative peace for the most part in the upbringing that we've been privileged to live into. It's interesting. You don't often see a person of color, visible minority, saying that they have privilege.
Which is funny.
It's weird. It's interesting.
I think the reason why I recognize it as privilege is because I think somebody helped me to see that where I come from, which is here, this is really like less than half of the world. And half of the world, or the rest of the world that's not part of the West, they have it a lot worse. It's crazy to think about the fact that there are people who they have to work in order to just make it to the next state. And I say to myself all the time, I'm like, I get to do the kind of things that would actually change the course of my life. There are people who have to work harder than I do for somebody else, and they don't even have the freedom to do things that would affect them.
Right. They're just trying to survive.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, how can you have dreams when you're just like, I don't know if I'm going to be alive to fulfill these dreams?
Like, dreams are a privilege if you think about it.
Absolutely.
So that's why I don't understand. If you think about it like that, there's no reason why I can't see myself as privileged.
Yeah, most people in today's society try to victimize themselves and say, hey, look, I'm being, they're not addressing me with my proper pronoun or something, or they're calling me the wrong name.
Yeah.
We tend to focus on things that, to be honest with you, are very selfish in nature, right? So
I think humans are very self-serving.
Well, speaking about humans, right? This is an interesting question I've had with some other people, and it's whether or not we are the only species in this galaxy, in this planet. And as Christians, oftentimes we don't really believe in aliens. What's your belief?
I haven't thought too much about aliens, I'm gonna lie. The Bible, as far as I know, makes no mention of it, so I have no reason to think they exist. Though to be fair, my Christianity is based off of faith. So if you believe in aliens, I won't hold it against you. Right?
Well, I mean, it's you're very very open minded there that you're allowing. But you know, interesting when you take a look at the Bible, they did mention that the world was flat
Word?
in the Bible. Yeah,
I didn't know
the
that.
Bible, when the earth was made, it was made as a flat disc with a firmament, which means that there's like a cover over it.
I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah.
I need to read more then.
I'm not saying that I'm a flat earther, but you know, there's that school of thought that people do believe that the world is flat.
Do you think it comes from the Bible then?
I don't entirely know. Like it's man, there's theories that if you're gonna look on a horizon and you see the image getting smaller and smaller and smaller, they're saying that okay, well that's the curvature of the earth, right? Because you're like, oh, I can't really see it because it's like this building is the earth is curving.
Yeah.
But now they have these telescopes that they can zoom in, and as they're zooming into the building, it's like just getting smaller, but you can zoom it. They're like, so it's actually not disappearing into the curvature of the earth, it's just getting smaller because it's further away. So their theory is that the earth is flat.
Okay.
Like I don't really know.
Maybe, I'd be guessing too, to be honest.
Right.
Maybe it's possible we just need better telescopes to see even further.
Who knows? But you know, there's so many different conspiracy theories. I don't know if your generation gets sucked into conspiracy theories as, you know, someone in their 20s, but how does a 20-year-old consume information? That's what's being bombarded into your space. Because when I was growing up, and we were watching television, but for the most part, I spent most of my time outside playing sports. Like I wasn't online, you know?
I like to think it's very much the same. Your worldview was determined in part by the people that you talk to. I think in my generation, there's less face-to-face, but there's still some of that. Your worldview is determined by what you see, sort of thing. So your worldview was determined by people who are your immediate sort of environment. My worldview, in large part, is determined by people who I haven't actually met face-to-face, but it's the same thing.
It's crazy to think that people you've never met face to face have such an impact on how you view the world, how you feel acceptance of the world. It's nuts. I find that we give away too much control and license to other people who probably shouldn't have control.
It's very hard to not do that though, because you see something a lot. There's a theory for it, but the more you see something, the more likely you are to believe that it's true, right?
It's cognitive bias.
Is that what it is? Okay. So it's very hard to see a bunch of things and be like, no, like this isn't right. Like it's just internet stuff. But you see it all the time. Eventually, this just becomes real life to you.
Right.
Right. So.
Yeah, it's like yesterday we were chatting about Elon Musk, and your generation is raised to believe that he's actually a bad, evil person. That's crazy. Like, I didn't know that.
I don't even know where my thought of Elon Musk came from.
I think it's probably because you have a guy with extreme amount of power, and this is my observation is based off of your comments on Alex Hormozy.
Yeah.
That here's a guy that's consistently growing, getting a lot more powerful. That can potentially be a threat.
Yeah. I'm worried. When we had this conversation, I remember saying, yeah, I'm worried because I see this guy continuously growing, and when I consume his stuff, I hear him say, you just have to be relentless. You just have to win. That's his brand now, just win. And because he's continuing to grow and shows no signs of stopping, I'm worried that he's going to get to the point where he's in the most powerful rooms in the world. And not because I think he's going to have bad influence there, but it's just scary to see one person be that powerful.
It's the idea that absolute power corrupts absolutely. Right? When you have too much power, it's like the Lord of the Rings, where they get that little ring, and all of a sudden you just see it's addictive to have that much power.
Yeah.
My attitude though is that similar to like money. Money is not good or bad. It's agnostic. It can't do anything. It can't hug you. Can't say anything. It's an amplifier of what's already there. So if you're a good person, and a good person gets $1 million, you're going to see how good they really are, because they're going to spend $1 million on good things. If you're an asshole, give an asshole $1 million, you're going to see maximum assholeness.
True. Yeah.
And so, I think ultimately society needs to be more concerned as to is the person with absolute power good or bad versus the acquisition of power?
The whole thing with good and bad, in my opinion, is that I don't know if there's really good or bad. I think, at least as people tend to define it, obviously, yes, I have morals. But I feel like when people say something is good, when people say something is bad, it's usually more selfish. They're like, you're good because what you do agrees with what I think is good. Or you're good because you do something that serves me. So, like, I like to think of the example of, say your mom's out grocery shopping and some guy comes and mugs her, or let's just go even more extreme, kills her or something. Obviously, you're going to think that guy's bad. But what if you found out that earlier your mom, when she was in her 20s or something, was an assassin, right, and killed his mom,
right,
and all he did was come to get revenge,
right?
Are you still going to think that guy was bad?
It's all. I agree with you. It's all about perspective, because just when you take a look at terrorism, one person's terrorist is another person's freedom fighter.
Yeah.
Right. And what we lack in society is that we don't put ourselves in the other person's shoes. You're right, actually, because people will see, well, how does it impact me? How does it affect me? So with that said, do you believe that there is a good and there is a bad thing? Or we live in a world of gray and it's perspective?
I think there is such a thing as objective truth, without a doubt. I just think that in general, when people decide something is good or bad, they may not be looking at it in terms of what is objective and what is not objective. And it's, to their point, we don't see enough, right? We're all very limited. There's as many different ways to see the world as there are people in it.
Right.
So there is objective truth, but I think the vast majority of people cannot see that objective truth. That's why most people's definition of good or bad, I think, is kind of skewed. That's my opinion.
As a young person, do you think you're better off than? Do you think the world is better off now than it was 10 years ago, or are we worse?
I definitely think we're better.
Okay.
For instance,
even though that generation can't purchase houses because they're so expensive.
Yeah, but there's still welfare. The reason why I say we're better off is because there's just less death in general, right? Yes, there's some things that are worse off than others, but the fact that somebody can move up from middle class or even poor class to wealthy class by just doing the right things is a testament to how good, or maybe how flexible society is, right? Not even in most countries, but in the country I live in, classism isn't really a thing, or at least it's not obvious.
Meaning there is no wealthy, poor. There's
no prejudice against you because you are poor. Well, there probably is. It's just like subtle. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, and so it's not as overt as like India, for instance.
I don't know anything about India, but yeah.
They have a caste system. So in India, if you're poor, you could only marry within the poor class.
Really? Okay.
And so it's called a caste system. So some people are untouchable, they're very wealthy, and they're always going to be wealthy. And if you're poor, you're stuck here. And if you're middle class, you're kind of stuck here. And you only intermingle within your class. So the mobility, you can't actually move from poor to wealthy. It's very hard because that's how the structure was.
And kind of to digress, but still part of the question, one of the reasons why I think we're doing better now is because I was listening to a podcast yesterday, Joe Rogan podcast with You and Me Park. Yeah, You and Me Park.
Were you actually listening to?
Yeah.
Did you watch the whole thing? Or?
I got like 30 minutes in.
Yeah. It's interesting, yeah.
And I heard her say in North Korea, there's like 30 million men who will never have access to women because... No, not North Korea. In China, sorry.
Yeah.
In China, there's like 30 million men who will never have access to women because they keep killing off all the women.
Right.
That, to me, is an example of something that, well, it happens now, but it was definitely more rampant back in the day because you had kings and queens who had claim over whatever human being that they wanted. Now, it's a lot more free, right? Like, governments are more ruled by people, not completely, but they are more ruled by people, which I think, again, is an example of us moving in the right direction, theoretically. So yeah, I think we're getting better.
So essentially you're saying that people have more power now.
Sovereignty.
Yeah, we have more sovereignty, and I think that's the whole mission behind something like Bitcoin, decentralization of currency, because ultra wealthy people have access to all of the wealth,
Yeah.
and will do whatever it takes to control that wealth. So, in like looking back and just going, very very curious about your generation and the idea of thinking nine figures. So the whole idea of thinking nine figures is just thinking quantum, thinking as far beyond you could ever think, that massive quantum leap. So if you want to get in shape, it's not just getting in shape, it's like, I want to do a competition. Do you find that your generation are aspiring for greatness, or it's a level of mediocrity?
That's a tough question, actually. It shouldn't be tough.
Like among your group, do you guys talk about, hey, let's level up and let's become successful, or is it very surface bullshit?
I think it's hard to, and this is speaking to me, it's hard I have to think about this. It's hard to not be anything better than surface level.
Okay.
And I think being someone who pursues things that's deeper than, oh, I just want money, I just want babes and all that, I think that comes from experience.
Right.
I don't think anybody's born necessarily being a deep thinker or whatever.
Yeah, you don't have this existential crisis. You're just trying to live life and
You're just trying to live life. The whole
enjoy, seek happiness.
The whole thing with mediocrity is, in my opinion, this is a hard question. I haven't thought about this.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's it's too hard to say, because social media makes it seem as though
We're grinding.
we're always grinding, right? Everybody is always successful, or everybody's always doing well.
Mm-hmm.
But then you've also heard the other side, which is everybody's so mediocre. So I'm like, which is it? You know what I'm saying? There's that's why I'm like, I don't know. But if I were to talk to just my friends, I think I'm surrounded by a lot of people who are actually very hardworking. Driven, yes. That could be a testament to me, and I just attract these kinds of people.
Oh, it's good, man.
You know, I have a friend group that when they meet, it's a bunch of guys. They just want to talk about money. Right? How do I make more money? We might have the wrong outlook on it, but that is what we're thinking about.
What makes you feel like it's the wrong outlook?
Like I said, being more than surface level, right? And I think the fact that we are surface level about it comes from, I think, our upbringing. That's why, to be anything more than surface level, I think you have to have gone through some struggle.
Yeah, you know what? There's a formula for change, and it's pain plus time equals change.
Yeah.
Right? You got to go through pain. You got to lose money. You got to get your heart broken. You have to have enough time that you've gone through it to say that, all right, you know what? The money didn't matter. I was the richest guy in the world. I lost my wife. You make that change. You don't put a value on wealth anymore. But I don't think there's anything wrong aspiring for material things. I would never be that guy that says, oh yeah, you should be changing the way you think, because talk to someone who's poor and say, hey, the money, money's not going to make you happy. I'm like, you give them, $100,000, they're going to be pretty happy.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
Because then you don't have to worry about food, or maybe making sure that they survive the next day.
Yeah, I think happiness is just freedom. Ultimately, freedom to do whatever you want, which is what you said.
My view on happiness is that to be happy, I think you just got to remove as many conditions. But this is, I like to think this is my privileged sort of mindset.
Okay.
I think to be happy, remove as many conditions from that emotion as possible. So if you think to yourself, waking up is enough for me to feel happy, because happiness is just an emotion, then I think you can be happy just being like that. I like to think I'm happy. It doesn't mean that I am always smiling every moment of the day, but I remove as much conditions as possible. Like if I eat something today, I am happy because I've been able to eat, right? If I wake up today, I'm happy. I think a lot of people try to say, I'm going to try to achieve this because I think it'll make me happy. And that's just putting a huge condition. And then by the time you get to it, you realize that, yes, it feels good, but it only feels good for a short amount of time.
Yeah, it's
just a
temporary.
feeling.
Yeah, it's temporary.
So.
Yeah, I like that. I like the fact that, ultimately what I'm hearing is that your way to manifest happiness is through gratitude.
Yeah, I've been
Right.
told that. Yeah.
And I think that's, I don't know if you ever focus on frequency and stuff like that. Oops. Frequency and stuff like we keep going is good.
Yeah.
So if you ever focus on frequency, I don't know if you've ever gone through that kind of stuff or.
I've heard of it. I like to not stay in it because I don't really understand it.
Mhm.
I like to think that there's just conditions and there's outcomes,
Mm.
right? So if you meet the condition, you will get the outcome. An example would be working out. If you want to be jacked, the way to do it is, and say you're starting from skinny, because that's my
Mhm.
experience. Meet your caloric goals, right? Meet your protein goals, work out a certain amount of time a week, and get rest. You
Mhm.
do that for long enough, and you will be jacked.
Mhm.
In my opinion, no question. I'm not the perfect example of this, but that's my belief.
Right.
If you want to graduate from university, pass all your classes, do not commit any misacademic conduct, and do the right core courses, and eventually you will get that degree. If you want to be, I think that's the only thing I can talk about from experience.
Right.
But yeah, it's simply just conditions and outcomes.
Right.
Maybe that's the same thing as frequencies, but that's just how.
You know, the interesting thing though with your generation or the current generation versus previous ones is there are so many different ways to address these conditions to achieve the same outcome. Right? I mean, you can get fit doing different types of sports. You can get wealthy doing different types of business. You can get full finding different types of food. Whereas, 50 years ago, the condition was very linear in nature. It's work hard, get a job with a company that's going to pay you a pension, who's going to see the worth and pay you whatever, you think or they think your worth is.
Yeah.
Right. And just don't be a disruptor. Don't piss off the man, and that's how you become successful.
And I've heard that worked. I just don't think it works like that anymore.
I agree.
I think it's a lot easier because maybe to some extent it's been decentralized.
Mhm.
It's a lot easier to become the man, as they say, and that's why more people are going down their path.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm not saying the education round doesn't work. It obviously does. There's lots of examples,
Right.
but it was less flexible back then, so that was the only way you could go.
Yeah, I think education's great. It teaches you to follow through on things. Doesn't necessarily give you a formula on how to become wealthy. It teaches you to think, and I think we need to become critical thinkers, and we have to prevent ourselves from being just sheep and believing things, believing a lie, right?
I agree. I think one of the good things about the internet is that it's made us all better critical thinkers. Because
Yeah.
I actually think so. Yeah. Depends on what you consume, obviously.
Right.
If you listen to a lot of public commentary stuff, then yeah, they're always asking questions about why it is that Trump did this, why is it that this celebrity came out and did that, what reason would they have for this, right? They have everything, they have all the money, all the women, blah, blah, blah. But again, it depends on what you consume. So maybe, I don't know. Yeah, I'll just say it depends on what you consume. It makes you a lot more critical about the world. If I were to talk about my education, I'm about to graduate from university, and I did communications. A lot of the things we spend our time doing is researching and figuring out the reasons for why marketing works the way it does. There's theories like Frankfurt School theory, what's his name? Michel Foucault, I don't even know how to say it.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about power not being an individual thing. So a lot of people, and this is just an example, a lot of people think power is something that you exert over other people.
Right.
His own belief is power is basically influence over everybody's actions, and it's not something that one person can possess. It's an idea that kind of controls how people move. Now, I don't know enough about it to be able to go deep into it, but yeah.
It's true influence.
Yeah, true
Right.
influence.
Because and that's ultimately what sales is.
True.
Like sales, people think there's a dark arts of sales and you're manipulating people. I'm sure you could use the word manipulation, but you're just influencing them to make a decision and steering them towards something that you want a certain outcome to be.
Mm.
Now, where it gets dangerous is, of course, when you're trying to manipulate people, their feelings for other dark purposes like cults and stuff like that.
I was talking to Israel about this sales thing. In his opinion, sales is marketing multiplied. So it's not that you necessarily inflict or kind of influence somebody else's decisions.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like somebody already has an idea of what it is that they want to do.
Right.
Right. And you're just coming in there and just channeling that desire towards your own thing.
But what if they don't know what they don't know? And you put a commercial, they're like, shit, I didn't really know that I needed this high-tech lawnmower.
I think everybody's guided by their feelings.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, that's all everybody's trying to serve, their own
Right.
feelings. So it's not that anybody wants an object. It's what they want, something that'll make them feel some sort of way. So if you
Okay.
can learn to sort of if you can learn to give people the feelings that they want, then I think that's where good salesmen, good marketers are.
Yeah, I think the best salespeople or just people who influence, they start with why. I don't know. Do you follow Simon Sinek often?
I've seen some of this stuff.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the Golden Circle?
No.
So this is how sales have always been. Just imagine a circle. Here's why we do it, how we do it, and what we do. Just like circles, right? Most people would say, hi, my name is Victor. I sell computers, right? And I believe that this computer with all of these graphics are amazing because it has a high processor and the ability to compute faster than anything ever. And I also believe that, and why this is important is because every Canadian needs to have a computer moving forward. So they start with the what. So what do I do? What am I? I sell computers. How do I sell the computers? I make sure that we have the best ones with high computing power. And why do I do it? Is because I believe that people need access to computing power. That's the typical salesperson. It's like, what do you do? How do you do it? And why do you want to do it?
Mm-hmm.
So, for instance, let's think about right now. You're in school.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you do? Student, right? How are you a student?
I go to school, I go to classes, and I do homework and animate.
And you study, yeah.
I study. Yeah.
And why do you do that?
I do that so I can get a degree.
So you can get a degree for what reason?
Because I believe it'll increase the likelihood that I get hired.
Right. So that's how typical salespeople. What do I do? Now imagine going backwards and starting with why. I believe that if I get a degree,
Yeah, then I can increase the likelihood that I get hired.
and how do I do that? Is I
go to school and
study.
I study and I get the, yeah.
Oh, and by the way, my name is Victor. I'm a student.
Oh, okay.
Isn't that powerful?
Yeah.
It's like I believe that every family should have a computer to compute, in this digital age. And how we do that is I try to make sure that I give you the most powerful computer within your budget. Oh, by the way, my name is Michael and I sell computers. Versus, hi, my name is Michael, I sell computers and I believe that you should have the best computer within your budget.
Okay.
And the reason why we need that is because everyone needs to compute.
Okay.
So as a salesperson, if you start with why, the idea is that people will not buy what you sell, they will buy why you sell it.
And that's only if they agree with it.
Yeah. Well, you could convince them, but there's so many car salesmen out there. There are so many realtors out there. Why do you go with that particular realtor? It's like, I like that guy.
I would like to challenge that a little bit
Okay.
and I think more so people are more willing to buy from those that they trust. So
Yeah,
what we're
know, like,
really
trust.
Yeah, no like trust. You said that too. What we really are looking for in a world where we see a bunch of ads like all the time, right? Everybody's always trying to sell us something, and everybody's kind of they're very, what's the word? They're very desensitized to it. They're just looking for, maybe not looking for, but they're more willing to trust or to buy from somebody that they trust. So what this start with why thing is trying to do is to just make you look more trustworthy to other people.
Mhm.
If you start off with what you believe in and you seem authentic about it, people are more likely to hop on board. I think that's what this is.
Yeah. And you know, it's interesting because most people don't tell people why they do it, right? They don't. So like sometimes people are just not as transparent. They just want to sell a product and they're transactional. When I was a salesperson, I would say, hey, you know what, Victor, I would never bring a pen or a paper or a notepad. I would never do a meeting.
Mhm.
I said, first of all, before we even move forward, there's no sale that's going to happen here, right? It's not going to happen. Even if you want to buy this house, it's not going to happen. What I want to do is, rather than close a deal, I want to open a relationship. So it sounds kind of cheesy. Rather than close a deal, I want to open a relationship. And the reason being is, the more I get to know you, the more I can understand what your needs are to find the right house. But if I'm just here to close a deal and you're like, yeah, I want to buy a 5-bedroom house. I'm like, yeah, I got a perfect one for you.
Mhm.
I'm just there for that quick sale. The good salesperson says, hey, look, I'm going to delay that gratification and I'm going to find you the best house possible versus the fastest possible that you need. Now, some people need it right away because they're time crunch and you just got kicked out of a house. They need it right away. They don't have time to fluff that stuff up. But the good salesperson can be discerning enough to see, to get to know the needs. And all the salesperson's trying to do is just address the need.
So yeah, serve the other person's need. Yeah.
Serve the other person's need, find a problem, solve problems that people will pay a lot of money for you to solve.
Mm.
Right?
That honestly, when I looked at sales, and I have a intrinsic distrust for salespeople,
Mhm.
like a lot of us do, I would say, because we always believe that we're being seduced whenever a
Mhm.
salesperson talks to us.
But why is that though? Why do we naturally not like being sold?
I think we just don't like being seduced because
Tricked.
tricked, yeah,
Tricked.
because we believe we're doing something
Swindled.
We
Yeah.
believe we're doing something against
Mhm.
our own values or something.
Mhm.
And then there's the whole archetype of snake oil salesman.
Yeah.
We honestly, I don't know, to be honest.
You know, I hated it because ultimately one of the reasons why I didn't like salespeople, I felt like I was losing control.
Maybe that's what it is.
I lose power. I lose control.
Yeah.
Right? But now I like salespeople because I understand sales. So I could see them weave, I could see the flow of the conversation, and I respect the strategy. I'm like, ooh, this guy's setting me up nicely. Okay, the pitch is going to come in the next 5 minutes. In my mind, I'm just not saying it. But I'm like, watch this. In 5 minutes, he's going to be like, so if I've addressed everything right now, is there anything I'm missing that would prevent us to do business together? Like you can see it coming. It's like, ooh, it's coming. But for me as a salesperson, I enjoy it. I enjoy the process because one, this guy's busting his ass to try to win me over. Two, I don't know if he has a wife and kid that he needs to support and a mother who's sick.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, man, this guy's working his ass off. And three, perhaps he's introducing me to something that I didn't know.
It's funny you say that because at this point you're not looking at the sale, you're looking at the person.
Yeah.
And that's what's convincing you.
Mm-hmm.
The average person who doesn't have a sales background is still looking at the
100%.
sale.
Yeah.
So they may not have as much trust as you do,
Mm-hmm.
which is probably where the distrust comes from.
Yeah, it's because they're losing control. But if you understand and psychologically you're like, hey, I will always have control because I can always say no and I can always walk away.
Mhm.
Unless someone has a gun to my head,
Yeah.
right? Different story.
Yeah.
But for the most part, if he's the most convincing salesperson, I can walk away. And if he's too aggressive, I can tell him to fuck off. Right? I
Yeah.
can just say fuck, So I think, and I don't know, maybe hopefully I change your mindset on when you approach people who are in sales. Just say, hey, look, you can always say no. Maybe they get annoying,
Mhm.
but you can always say no, right? And it's just where people lack that trust is because they feel like they're losing power. But you could be depriving yourself of something that you really need,
I don't disagree.
right?
Yeah.
So, and I think once you, like as a young person, if you can understand the art of sales, you can get anything because you're selling your trust, you're selling your skills. You meet a girl at the club, you're selling. Why is she gonna pick you versus that other guy?
Yeah.
You gotta sell yourself.
Ah,
We're
yeah.
always in sales.
I think sales is just being really good at understanding how people work and just working that to your advantage.
So I'm going to pivot this a little bit and get a little bit more philosophical. If we understand sales, why is it that this younger generation are selling themselves on the fact that they need validation from other people? Why are they selling themselves? First of all, I'll ask you a question. Who's the number one salesperson in the world?
I have no idea.
He has one name. His name is doubt. He sells one thing. It's that you're not good enough. He sells you doubt 24/7, nonstop, relentless. He doesn't take days off. It's constantly. So the number one salesperson in the world is doubt, because in your mind you're like, should I wear this shirt, or do I look fat? Should I go to this class? Like, you're always questioning yourself, and that sound behind your brain, that doubt, is constantly, relentlessly selling you something. And so why is it, maybe not just your generation, every generation, why do they sell themselves short? Why do they sell themselves that they're not good enough? And we had this experience yesterday, because I said, hey, I want to see you, show me your YouTube channel, right?
My opinion of it is because you see so much great stuff out there, right? And you, for some reason, think that when you haven't put in as much work as they have, your stuff should be just as good, right? You think that what's great is the norm. And I think when you actually go and try it and you see that you're nowhere near that, you're like, what?
Yeah.
I must suck then.
Yeah.
I must be, I don't know, awful, whatever. This goes for people who think they're unattractive too.
Right.
You see a lot of attractive people out there, because people are always showing themselves in their best
Highlight
version.
reels.
Yeah, highlight reels essentially. And you think that's the norm, but it's not. But it's so, like I said, the more you see something, the more you accept it as it's true. So I think that's where a lot of people come from. I think a lot of people my age come from when they say they need validation. Maybe they've seen too much, they've experienced so much like failure, and they just need that little boost of confidence. My own opinion of confidence is I still don't understand it, in the sense that the dictionary definition of confidence is certainty that an outcome will happen, or certainty that you can do something. But if I don't have that certainty, why should I be confident? That's my look.
Well, yeah, I think you're right. I think perhaps the advice is that you are focusing on the wrong thing to be confident.
Okay.
So if I'm in a situation and I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but I'm confident that I will give my best effort.
Okay.
I'm confident.
So be confident not in the outcome happening, but in
what you can control.
Okay.
Your reps. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm confident that I could do 50 push-ups. Pretty confident.
Okay.
I'm pretty confident that I could do 75 push-ups. 100, and then you start to stretch outside of that. And all of a sudden, you're pretty confident. Doesn't mean you could succeed. You're just confident.
What would you say
So confidence is a high degree of certainty, not necessarily certainty and guarantees.
What would you say to that guy who's never approached a girl before, but wants to go and approach her, and people tell him, go be confident, bro?
Yeah, just be confident. Can you speak English?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can speak English. Can you speak English well? Yes. Well, that's good, because you're going to need to speak English to that girl because she doesn't understand anything but English. Right? I'm pretty confident that I could communicate. Now, if you're like, I need to have confidence, I'm going to try to take her home, then you're just setting yourself up for failure. And that's the whole idea is, micro wins. That's how momentum starts. Right? That's how you get the ball moving. Just win, small win, one step at a time. Life, Victor, life is both simple and hard. Simple, it's like running a marathon. Running a marathon is simple and hard. Simple, one step forward, another step forward, another, pretty simple, but it's fucking hard. Hard to do. And that's life in general. So rather than focusing on, it's going to be hard to do that, high probability you're going to fail, have confidence that you could put your one step forward. All right, I probably put another step forward, Those micro wins create momentum. And that's the mental shift. You do this in life in every single thing, you'll be ultra successful.
To challenge that life is simple but difficult, I agree with that.
Success is simple.
Okay, there you go.
Life is not.
I can understand that.
Yeah, success is simple, but it's difficult.
Yeah, then I'm gonna say
Well, life is not easy, man.
no.
No, tell somebody who has no legs.
Exactly.
Tell them to go run a marathon and you got no legs.
I heard Denzel Washington say to a group of actors, he was like, "Let's relax, guys. We're just making a movie here. This isn't hard.
Mm-hmm.
What's hard is when you send your son off to war and he comes back and half his face is blown up.
Yeah.
Right. What's hard is you carried a baby for 9 months and then it comes out and it dies within 2 hours.
Yeah.
Right. And you had this image of what your life with this baby was gonna be like. Like that stuff is hard.
That's hard.
So, and all this stuff nobody deserves or can predict. And I'm getting shivers just thinking about that, right? So, or another thing that's hard is your son or your daughter, as they're coming home from school, they see somebody being mistreated horribly, and they step in to save them, and they're the one who ends up getting hurt,
Killed.
Yeah,
That's
which
hard.
happened to somebody else.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
You know, I always ask myself this question, like, what would I do if someone was being hurt? I'd have to question it though, right? If someone's robbing a store, would I jump in? Maybe not.
I would agree with you.
Store's insured. It's okay.
Yeah.
Right? Got insurance, there's police. But if someone's life and death is on the line, and I have an ability to save that life, despite me losing mine, I think about it, but there's a high probability that depending on the situation, the person being hurt, I'd step in. Now, if it's two gang members fighting, hey man,
Step out, yeah.
it's Darwinism. This is just
Natural selection.
Natural selection. Two guys. Don't worry, you're trimming the fat. It's okay. But if it's an elderly lady who is, getting her ass kicked, or a girl who's getting molested, I don't know. I try my best. I would try my best to help.
On that note of natural selection, I'm going to digress a little bit.
Mhm.
Remember Thanos from
Yeah.
Avengers?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. Do you agree with his idea of the world being like half of it should basically be gone because you don't have enough resources, that sort of thing?
Yeah, because I think he did it the right way because he was fair. There was no bias. He says, like, I don't know what's going to be, right? And if you believe in God, I think that's very godlike, and that's why the world is fair, is because you don't know if you're going to get cancer. Good guys get cancer. Bad things happen to good people, and good things happen to good people.
Absolutely,
Good things happen to bad people, and bad things happen to bad people.
Okay.
And that's why it's fair.
Now, to be fair, if Thanos was real
Mhm.
and you saw,
I'd
like,
be pissed off at him,
yeah, of course,
but I would understand.
but would you be any less you would still be like, go screw yourself, right?
Okay, so I think the question is, would I back up the Avengers?
Yeah. Are you in support of the Avengers or Thanos?
Man, it's a good one.
Because you understand why.
Because he's
he did
not
it.
a bad person.
He's a person, yeah.
He's not a bad. Like he's actually he just wants peace. He just wants peace, and
Sustainability.
Sustainability. He wants the universe to be sustainable. Man,
Now, you don't have to answer this.
it's
now.
hard because it's you could die.
Yeah.
But life's a gamble. I would say that it is our obligation and right to fight for our life. It is our obligation and right to fight for the people we care about. Because if there's a 50-50 chance that my wife is going to die, I'm not just going to, we're going to gamble. I got to fight for that chance that it's not going to happen, that we never get to a point where my wife can die. But if I lose that, I'm also okay with the outcome.
Okay.
If I was Captain America and we're fighting for the people we care about and we lose, I'm okay with it. I gave my best shot and I fought for people I care about. Now, if someone passes away, I tried. And that's all you can do, and that ultimately goes back to our conversation about confidence. I don't know that we can beat Thanos, but I'm confident that I have a higher probability of winning versus that bum on the street or that human. I am more confident than that human because the human doesn't have superpowers and I do.
Mm.
That's where the confidence comes in. Doesn't mean I'm going to beat Thanos, Which also, that one when Captain America is holding Thanos' hand, like arm, was insane. This is a human, and he's like, Thanos gives him that punch, and he's like, it's epic. Probably one of the greatest moments in movie history is when Captain America gets Thor's hammer.
True, yeah. And then he lunges and he strikes it, and you see the.
Yeah, and then everyone's like, oh, okay. And then he's the one that says, Avengers Assemble.
Yeah.
Right? He says, Avengers Assemble.
And he does it like quietly, like, Avengers?
Yes.
And then they all hear it, and then you just run.
So one of the greatest moments in movie history has to be that. Right? That is
on your left.
Yeah, he goes, Cap, look on your left. And he's getting his ass kicked.
Yeah.
Because he knows he's gonna die. He's ultimately this is hero. Like, you go down, you're gonna die. Ultimate, he's gonna die. But all of a sudden, hope, right? When people lose hope, then they're fucked.
Yeah.
Right? And he just like, all of a sudden hope. He has hope. He gets that second juice.
I could go into this. Speaking of hope, is it okay if I digress again?
Oh, go for it, man.
I think I got this. Maybe it was from you, or it was from the podcast I was seeing. Apparently in North Korea, they destroy these people's spirits so much that they don't even. Was that from you? That they don't even want to eat.
Yeah, that's from I think the podcast.
That was from your podcast.
Not mine.
Oh, the Joe Rogan's podcast.
Yeah.
It's insane to think that somebody's spirit can be can be so destroyed that the idea of eating is pointless. Because it's like, even if I eat, that just means more suffering.
You're gonna die. That's the Victor Frankl. That's the man's search for meaning.
That's insane.
Yeah.
And I don't understand how another person could think it's okay to treat a person like that. Like, you might as well just kill them. I got to do whatever.
There's cruelty. Well, there's also the economics behind it.
What's the economics behind it?
Okay, so if you have people who are likely going to kill themselves and you want to wipe them out, and they're just let them lose hope because they will kill themselves, because the amount of energy used to burn them and bullets, the economics behind it would be so much. You're trying to kill 1 million Jews, right? That's a lot of bullets.
Yeah.
To incinerate a human body, that's a lot of energy. And so let's ride out. Break their hope so that they just kill themselves.
That is inhuman.
It's cruel. It's cruel, right? But the world has done some nasty things, man.
Yeah.
The humans are not nice to each other.
Yeah, most of the time. They're just self-serving, right? Regardless of it ends up being a nice action. Like your mom being nice to you, at the end of the day, I think is self-serving. It makes her feel good.
Of course.
Right?
Of course.
Your father whipping you, whether he wants to discipline you or because he's, angry, either way it's self-serving. They're just serving your feelings.
They're serving your feelings. They're serving, this is what I need to do as a man, or
even that whole I need to do this as a man or a woman. At the end of the day, it's serving some feeling within you. I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe it's serving. I don't know what feeling it would be.
But you are not. So here's one thing that people need to understand: is like, you are not your feeling.
You are not.
You're not. You're a spirit. You're a human. You're a soul that is feeling that, but you're not your feeling.
Absolutely.
Right. And it's quite interesting where. I think as human beings, there's no one who's truly altruistic, truly out of the goodness of their heart. Very, very rare. Very rare. For the most part, as humans, it's innate for us to want to get something out of it. Now, it might not be as obvious as a monetary reward or prestige, but even us feeling good
is a reward.
It's a reward, right?
Yes.
We're all reward-driven animals. Even if you want to eat, our reward is, I don't need to feel hungry.
We're born that way.
There's nothing wrong with it.
No, I don't think so.
I just think, don't fake it and tell people you're this amazing humanitarian.
I just want to help people just to help people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very open and transparent. I tell people, I want to help people because I want businessmen to succeed, because one, it makes me feel good, but it also creates a pool of future businessmen that I could do business with.
Yeah, and that's fine.
That's Alex Hormozy strategy with school. So, I think I think we're in a world where people need to be a lot more awake, a lot more authentic, and there's nothing wrong with wanting more.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong. I actually wanted to create a magazine called More.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just like, how do you want to get more money, more chicks, more experiences in life, more healthy steps, whatever,
Yeah.
more food.
Yeah.
Everyone wants more. Anyone who says, I just want enough, I'm like, well, you're not going to be successful because your standards are so low. You always have to have high standards
Mhm.
because there's so many other people who you can help along the way. So we're hitting an hour, man. This is a good podcast.
Yeah.
Before we end off, what's a message that you would want people to know, whether it is about yourself, your thoughts on the world, good, bad? What right now are you feeling, and what is the message that you want to share right now to anyone watching?
I dreaded this question. Because there's both so much I could say and there's also so little. If I were to say what kind of person I am,
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm naturally very curious,
Mm-hmm.
and open-minded. And I think that's I like that trait about myself. I think the curiosity has led me to be open-minded.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to think it makes me difficult to be controlled, but I don't know. I think I'm also easily influenced. If I were to give a message to the world, I would just say, learn to understand yourself. Because when you understand yourself, you understand that how you think is how other people think, and that can actually help you get more of what you want, if that makes sense. So yeah, my message to the world is learn to understand yourself. What I think about myself is I'm just curious and open-minded.
Yes.
And that's it. Yeah.
Master your inner world and
Yeah.
impact the outer world.
Literally, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining the show. Thank you for joining Think 9 Figures / Victor's Life. Go check him out. This was a good podcast. It was impromptu, and it's a blessing for me to be part of your podcast. This Victor's Life
Yes.
episode, because this is a hybrid show, right? So,
Okay, nice.
so this is so thank you for allowing me on your podcast, man. It was awesome.
Thank you for the invite to yours as well, honestly. I wasn't expecting all that.
This was good. Awesome, brother.